Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Shalom, namaste, and peace. Let me begin by thanking the Almighty for this opportunity that we are here together tonight, despite of this type of weather. Brother, you can take a chair and can have a seat, please. And without thanking all of you, I will not be able to thank the Almighty. So thank you very much for being here tonight, particularly the speakers and my non-Muslim friends who are here tonight. It is truly not, it's not only a kindness, it's a sacrifice that you did or you do for all of us. So thank you so very much. We pray first that the ceasefire is effectively began in the Middle East today, will be truly implemented as it is supposed to be implemented. That is our hope. As Muslims, what we want is only peace, nothing else. We want peace for everyone, because peace for ourselves without others is not peace. Peace for everyone. So we pray for them, that may Allah, the Almighty, continue to guide them, that they can be honest to what they have agreed upon. We also pray for our country, as Americans, that tomorrow is the inauguration of the 47th President of the United States, Mr. Donald Trump. Welcome back. And I'm sure that Donald Trump has learned quite a lot. Everybody has a kind of transformation, and we want to see transformation in him. There is going to be hopefully better. As a part of this society, brothers and sisters, we are committed. America has given us so much. We want to give back. And that is our brother, Zahran Mamdani, have done so. He came here as a child, and now he is our representative, not for Muslims, but for New Yorkers. Because he is giving back for what America has given him. And that is one of the reasons why we are here tonight, to remember the legacy of Martin Luther King Jr. It reminds us that how everyone has dignity that must be respected. That how everyone has fundamental right that must be protected. So we remember that legacy, not only to celebrate, but more importantly, to live by his legacy. So without further delay, this is not my speech. I just wanted to invite all the speakers to come up. First, certainly Rabbi Rachel Goldenberg, please come up to the stage. Then we have Guru Dilip Kumar Tangkapan, come up. Then we have Mr. James Lynch, please do join us. And then we have Father Emmanuel Sabamalai. Please do have his seat. Yeah. 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 All right. I've met these speakers for some time. Certainly Guru Dilip Ji, we have known each other for over 20 years. 25 years, he corrected me. At the United Nations, we work together on peace, on Namaste. And Rabbi Goldenberg, certainly a few months ago, we met in Astoria. And you know, when you have the same, the same aspiration, you know, we're gonna have that easily connected. So we feel that connection. And I met his daughter also, Amina. It's a beautiful name. When I met your daughter, Amina, so Amina, this is a beautiful name. It's like Arabic name. So, yeah, yes, I mean, it's trustworthy. It's mean a trustworthy person. And Mr. Lynch, certainly he is the Vice President of a Buddhist Council in New York City. Thank you very much for taking time. I've been working very much with other monks in the city as well. And certainly my other friends, actually newly connected. Yeah, so just 1 month. Father Emmanuel Sabamalai, but he is now a part of our chaplaincy work at the Bellevue Hospital. He's taking CPE, Certified, what is that? Pastoral Education. And I'm a full-time chaplain at Bellevue as well, so we got connected through that. So thank you so very much. Without further ado, I would like to invite the first speaker, that is Rabbi Rachel Goldenberg, to say for 7 minutes.
I timed my words. So. Thank you. Assalamu alaikum. I did study some Arabic in college, so I have the ayn. And thank you, Imam Shamsi Ali, for this warm invitation and for the ways in which you cultivate relationships across all kinds of boundaries of all kinds of faiths in this city. It's a real honor to be here with all of you, my colleagues who I just met, to recommit to bringing forward the legacy of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. I also just want to point out that we have some folks here from my community, Malchut, a progressive Jewish spiritual community in Western Queens, and just so glad to have you here in the room with me as well. And I want to open first with a prayer. As the ceasefire and hostage deal finally went into effect today between Hamas and Israel, Holy One of Being, we are still holding our breath after all of these months. We are filled with gratitude and relief that a ceasefire and a hostage deal are finally here, that the bombs are quiet, finally, that 3 Israeli hostages went home today to their families, and we pray that the ceasefire might hold, that folks do uphold their commitments so that no one has to live in fear of bombs falling on their families, on their homes, on their businesses. And we pray that all displaced people may return to their homes in Gaza and in Israel, and that humanitarian aid might make its way to all in Gaza in need of medicine and food and water and shelter, and that all the hostages may come home to their families. May the work of healing and rebuilding and peacemaking begin. So I believe, and my Jewish tradition and history teach me, that racial harmony and peace can only come through solidarity between diverse communities within the society. In his words to the Rabbinical Assembly in 1968, Dr. King spoke of a coalition of conscience that is needed to steer the ship of our country away from the old destructive rocks of racism and division to which it was headed then, and I think many of us see it heading there today. But when we stand together and when we show up for each other, we can make our world the place that he dreamed of, the place that we dream of for ourselves and our children. The very beginning of the book of Exodus, which we read in synagogue just this past Shabbat, this past week, it speaks to this need for solidarity across lines of difference. So I'm going to tell some of these stories, and I just want to be very clear that when I speak about the Egyptians in the story, I'm talking about the ancient people in the Bible, right? Not the citizens of the modern country of Egypt. And to be also clear that when I talk about Israelites and Hebrews, and those names are used interchangeably in the Torah, when I speak of them, I'm not referring to citizens of the modern state of Israel, but I'm speaking about my ancient ancestors, biblical ancestors. So the book of Exodus opens with a new Pharaoh arising over Egypt who doesn't know Joseph. This king doesn't know or care to know or to understand the Israelites who are living in his land. This new Pharaoh divides Egyptians from the Israelite community who migrated to Egypt and thrived there during an earlier famine. And rather than seeing the Israelites as an integral part of Egyptian society who help the society to flourish, this new Pharaoh tries to persuade Egyptians that the Israelites are a threat. He imposes slave labor upon them and places taskmasters over them in an effort to repress them and to divide them from the rest of the society. But his policy doesn't work. It doesn't reduce the birth rate of the Israelites as he had hoped. So then he institutes a new, very harsh and brutal policy. He instructs the midwives who help the Hebrew women give birth to kill all of the Hebrew baby boys. But two midwives, Shiphrah and Puah, defy the king's decree and they let the boys live. This is a moment of profound courage on the part of the midwives, because the punishment for defying the Pharaoh's decree is death. So later Jewish commentaries on the Torah, they ask whether these midwives are Israelites themselves, because the language of the text is not terribly clear. And some suggest that these midwives who refused to kill these baby Israelite boys, they suggest that these midwives had to be Egyptians because Pharaoh wouldn't have been able to trust the Hebrew midwives to follow the command to kill the babies of their own people. So these midwives must have been Egyptian. It's okay. And that is what really makes this such an amazing story. The text says that the midwives feared God and that is why they save these babies. They see themselves and the Israelites as part of the same whole. These Egyptian midwives and the Israelites are all humans created in the image of God. And so they join in solidarity with the Israelites and they save these Israelite boys. There are many other instances of solidarity in the story. Moses grows up in Pharaoh's palace, right, in an elite, beautiful place of privilege, and he crosses that line of class and privilege to stand up for a Hebrew slave who is being beaten by an Egyptian, right? And this leads Moses to have to flee Egypt because Pharaoh is out to kill him. I see a lot of nodding of heads because this is a story in the Quran as well, correct? Yes. Also, a whole mass of Egyptians, they see their lives and their fate as bound up with the fate of the Israelite people, and they leave Egypt with the Israelites during the Exodus, and they come with us during our wanderings in the desert. Also, Moses marries a Midianite woman, not an Israelite, and his father-in-law accompanies him, Jethro, right? What is his name in the Quran? I forget. Shu'aib, okay, thank you. And he gives Moses important leadership advice, right? All of these crossing of lines to help each other. In modern Jewish history, and even in my own family history, non-Jewish people have hidden us, have protected us, have saved us from the hands of the Nazis, from others who have sought to hurt us, Jews. And it has become well known that many rabbis and Jewish activists took part in the civil rights movement, marching side by side with Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. So I want to end my remarks by answering your question, Imam Shamsi Ali. How do we build racial harmony towards sustainable peace in our society? In addition to being a rabbi, I am a musician and a singer, and I love the idea of harmony. When we make harmony, we are all singing different notes at the same time, right? And all of us in this room, we are all embodying and practicing different faiths, different religions. We come from different ethnicities and races, right? But all of the notes, all of our unique ways of life, they are all serving the same melody. We are all serving the same divine vision of a world of peace and equity and thriving. But harmony cannot happen if we're all just dwelling in our separate rooms, right? We saw this during the pandemic. It's very hard to make musical harmony over Zoom, you may have noticed. And in order for harmony to happen, we actually have to show up for each other and stand next to each other and take risks for each other and walk with each other. This shared vision of peace and humanity needs all of us to do our part to resist authoritarianism, to resist those who say that we don't have a shared and common interest in and need for a city where all of us can live and thrive. We need to resist together those who say that there isn't enough for all of us to get what we need. Black, white, brown, Jewish, Christian, Buddhist, Muslim, Hindu, atheist, citizen, longtime New Yorker, new immigrant. Harmony requires us to show up for each other when one of us is being targeted by hate or by immoral or racist policies. We only have sustainable peace when we show up for this work and for each other over and over again. We need each other to be those courageous midwives and to birth this vision, Dr. King's dream, into being side by side. Thank you. Salam alaikum.
Thank you so very much, Rabbi. Such wonderful. I'm not going to comment because I'm sure that you have, internalized, not only understood it, but internalized it. All those points are actually very much valid in our own perspective beliefs. Talk about ancient Egypt, how they enslaved the Bani Israel in the language of the Quran, Israelites. And then you talk about the Muslims serving Jews during the Holocaust. And there is a movie, by the way, called Besa. If you don't watch it. B-E-S-A. This is a story of Muslims serving the Jews in Albania, the only Muslim majority country in Europe. It's a beautiful movie, actually. But finally, here, the Rabbi talked about the importance of fighting for one another, because Rabbi, anti-Semitism is my fight, as I do believe that Islamophobia is your fight. And that's why we have to fight for one another. Thank you so very much. Now, Ms. Lynch, it's your time to come.
Good evening, everyone. Assalamu alaikum. Well, peace be unto all of you, and the mercy and blessings of God be with you. I want to begin by expressing my heartfelt gratitude to Imam Shamsi Ali for his tireless leadership, vision, and for graciously hosting this interfaith gathering at the Jamaica Muslim Center. Your work in fostering understanding and unity among people of all faiths is a true testimony to the values of peace, compassion, and justice that we are here to celebrate today. It's both an honor and a privilege to stand at this sacred place and space among this beautiful community to reflect on the life and legacy of Dr. Martin Luther King, Jr. In this mosque, a center is a place that embodies the principles of justice, mercy, and community. I'm reminded of the timeless teachings of Dr. King, Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, and the Buddha, who often called humanity to the path of peace and universal compassion. I believe Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, taught that the best of people are those who are most beneficial to others, urging us to serve others selflessly and to stand against injustice. The Buddha echoed this sentiment when he said, "Hatred does not cease by hatred, but by only love alone. This is the eternal rule," reminding us of the transformative power of love and understanding in overcoming division and conflict. I'm actually a Buddhist minister with a group called Risha Kosakai, and also the vice president of the Buddhist Council of New York. And I want you to know that we don't worship the Buddha. The idea in Buddhism is to recognize the unity and love and compassion in our side of all people. And indeed, I can say that I grew up with Martin Luther King as one of my touchstones. Again, you don't worship people, you only worship God. Right? Allah, you only worship God. And when I was 5 years old, I remember when Dr. King was assassinated here in the United States. 1968, I was a little boy. And indeed, my parents before that had marched in the South when they were in college so that they could go to the bathroom. I remember my parents telling me about they were trying to desegregate lunch counters here in the United States. And one of the key things that Dr. King was always talking about was the unity of people regardless of faith or tradition or color. And it's good to me to say those words, but I wanted to say the words of Dr. King directly that I had actually brought this book. And so I'm going to change it at some places where he said it, but I hope that it works for you. He said, talked about God, and when I say God here, I'm going to say Allah. There's so much frustration in the world because we have relied on gods rather than Allah. We have genuflected before the God of science only to find that it has given us the atomic bomb, producing fears and anxieties that science can never get rid of. We have worshipped the God of pleasure only to discover that thrills play out and sensations are short-lived. We have bowed before the God of money only to learn that there's no such things as love and friendship that money cannot buy. And that in a world of possible depression, stock market crashes, and bad business investments, money is a rather uncertain God. These transcendent or transitory gods are not able to serve or save or bring happiness to the human heart. Only Allah, God, is able. It is faith in him that we must rediscover. And then the last thing I wanted to say, very short, was this. Let me make sure I get the right quote. I want to make sure I get this right one. Hold on. I want to get the right one. Here we go. He said this. He's talking about education, because I don't know how many of you have children. And if we're wise enough, Martin Luther King was always talking about how we're going to educate the next generation of people. What are we giving them? What is our faith giving the next generation of people? Are we going to teach people how to love and be compassionate and be caring and to be thoughtful, to be courageous? Or are we going to be fearful and bow down, as he said before, to the God of money? He said this: I often wonder whether or not education is fulfilling its purpose. A great majority of the so-called educated people do not think logically and scientifically. Even in the press, the classroom, the platform, and the pulpit, many instances do not give us objective and unbiased truths. To save man from the morass of propaganda, in my opinion, is one of the chief aims of education. Education must enable one to sift and weigh evidence, to discern the truth from the false, the real from the unreal, the facts from the fiction. The function of education, therefore, is to teach one to think intensively and to think critically. But education which stops with efficiency may prove to be the greatest menace to society. The most dangerous criminal may be the man gifted with reason but with no morals. We must remember that intelligence is not enough. Intelligence plus character, that is the goal of true education. The complete education gives one not only the power of concentration, but worthy objectives upon which to concentrate. The broad education will therefore transmit to one not only the accumulated knowledge of the human race, but also the accumulated experience of social living. I really believe that's what Muslims do. They love their community. Indeed, half of my family, on one side of my family, they actually lived in Saudi Arabia. They were Muslims, devout Muslims. And I studied with my other side of my family, were all Christian ministers. And so I really believe that there's a blessing that Imam Shamsi Ali has done here today. Because when we have other faiths coming together, we have a chance to bring love and compassion and joy and hope to a city and society that needs you. They need you to stand up and be loving and compassionate and let your faith shine amongst the people who are lost. And so that's what I want people to know, that Martin Luther King gave his life. He died in this country so that we could have hope, and that we could give hope to others in a time of great trial and tribulations. Thank you so much.
Thank you, so beautiful. You know, one of the things that truly attract me a lot about Buddhism is the protection of environment. And I think when you talk about Islam, you know, when the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ said that even if you have a bunch of water, abundance of water, take care of the water. It is our environment. And because it is about life. It's about life. And the environmental violence today is one of the form of more scary violence that happen. And that leads into discriminations. because the world is being divided into north and south, or let's say east and west. And in fact, when we talk about east and west, it's not geographical term, it is demographical term, because New Zealand actually is in the far east, but New Zealanders consider themselves Western. So you see how racism and discrimination is taking place in the world today. So thank you so very much. It's so beautiful, that presentation. One of the things that you mentioned truly is beautiful is about how Martin Luther identified that we fail to worship God actually. Instead, we're worshiping our ego today. And it's money, power, and all the problems you see in the world today, and it's wars, killing, whatever, terrorism. All these are about ego, because people are worshiping ego, even sometimes in the name of God, in the name of religion or God. But actually they are worshiping their own egoistic tendency. Now, it's the time for my good friend, Guru Dilipji, to deliver his speech. He's a renowned international yogi.
It's my great pleasure and honor to join in this beautiful center. I'm coming so many years. I want to thank Imam Shamsi Ali, my long time Silver Jubilee we are celebrating as a friend, and his family. We used to do so many events at 4 West 43rd Street. He had a center there, and my friends, old friends, new friends, and all the trustee board members and the friends here. I born in a interfaith family. My father's side, they are the first 12 Hindu Brahmins became Christians in India before Europe and America. We have so many bishops and priests. My mom's family is from Hindu family, but before Indianized Hindus, it was a Buddhist nation. They were Buddhist too. Before that, they were indigenous. So I grew up with so many Muslims, so many Christians, Hindus, even we have a synagogue in my hometown. So I never learned how to hate somebody. Wherever I go, they are my friends. If I look at your eyes, I see God made as a family. We are not different. If somebody told you, hate this person, that person need help. So don't worry about tomorrow onwards. 4 years we'll have some dramas in the TV, then next group will come. One of my friend is a Muslim, my childhood friend, from my first day onwards, it's a Muslim friend. He just sent me $50 for some project today. Just today. My first toy I got from him. I go to his house and sleep. I never feel they are different than my family. Travel in different countries. Why I blow this one? Because my master, he was 123 when he passed away. He brought me to the UN. My job was bringing all the religions together. I'm just doing. Am I doing good? Imam knows that. So he was living in Iran Shah's house for 70 years as a Hindu priest. Those days, living in Muslim country as a Hindu, it's not easy. But they had openness. They connected. And they both came together to America and settled down here. And he started all the work, religious events at the UN. And in 2000 Millennium Celebration, I think Imam Shamsili was there at the UN for the Millennium Celebration. And he blew this shell at the UN. So I brought this one here. This is travel around the globe. Now I am just blowing for him. That's why I brought here. I am not attached to this at all. As a human being, this is what I say. We are divine being, chosen being on this earth. Forget about your religion or my religion. Forget about it. The blood is red, right? We all are made of five elements: earth, water, ether, fire, air. Nothing else. We born in different countries. We speak different language. We eat different things. Our actions are different. But when you go to the deep in the spirituality or in your religion, you can see only one thing. That is love, nothing else. Am I right or wrong? Now I believe you are interfaith people. This started as a Muslim center, now it's a spiritual center. This is a model for entire world. This is what I'll say. This year just started. Immediately he's calling me for an event. I changed my flight, moved after 2 weeks, only to come to his event. That is the friendship. Like my brother. So I don't want to miss this one. Last 2 years, we are struggling at the UN to resolve wars. I am tired of it. You know how much money we are spending? The public money. Trillions of dollars we already spent only for wars. We don't have enough money for a meal. See how many homeless people are in the city. It's growing. It's not correct. So we had to take care of every single child for their education, their health, not only physical, mental and spiritual too. People are going away from religious places. That is not good. They end up with the drugs. That is not good. So we have to make the change in the city. So we all have to work together. When I grew up, I was preparing for the civil service exam. So I had to study zoology as a main and history. So I had to study Indian history, world history and American history. 2 people I like. One is Abraham Lincoln and one is Martin Luther King. They made difference in this country. But don't forget about indigenous people, those who gave facilities for us. Make sure they are part of us. Whenever you go to somebody's place, think about they are our siblings. We have to open up our heart, not with the knife, with vibrations. From the first inhalation to last exhalation is our life. Everybody is going to die one day. So this within this short time, how we can make a beautiful life to celebrate. Rather than blaming, when you smile at somebody, they feel comfortable. I remember when I moved to America, first borough was Brooklyn. Brooklyn is usually open area, a lot of artists are there. I smile at a person, just look at me like this. Same day I had to leave, next day, same time, I smile at it. So after a few days, they start smiling back to me. I said, oh, nice. Because I grew up this way. When I walk to school or wherever, we say hi to everybody. This is where I grew up. Don't think I am from India. India is a big country. I am from Cochin, Kerala. Kerala is different. All the religious people are there. We never see any war. We focus on education. When communist government announced total literacy campaign, I was in Congress party. I just went to this project. I want to educate people. So I had 70 years, 80 years, 90 years old people are coming to my class. They don't know how to read and write. So within 3 years, we got total literacy in my town. Then government of Kerala took that as a project for the state. Within 5 years, we got 100%. You see their face when they read newspaper. So we had to educate people. We had to put all the effort for their people's education, healthy lifestyle and spiritual lifestyle. Any religion, whatever you belong to. Believe and go to the depth. And follow the teachings. Not just talk. Just do it. You live it. You practice. You teach. When you teach, it will go in practice. So I hope we will have more events like this and make it bigger and bigger. Even we need people on the street standing there waiting to come here. It will happen. Thank you, everyone. Appreciate it.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Guruji. We call him Guruji. And Guru means teacher, actually, right? It means teacher, yeah. I like that smile. In Islam, smile is a form of charity. But there are many people also smiling themselves without any reason on subways. Because you lost the smile, the real reason of the smile, because of this worship in ego of wealth and money, and you know, our real home, actually shared common home, is humanity. You know, in that single home, there are rooms. We may have different food in those rooms. We may have different type of decoration in those rooms, but we acknowledge the existence of other rooms in the same home. That's our common humanity. So thank you very much for that great reminder. Let me now invite another friend, Father Emmanuel Sibamalai, who is originally from Sri Lanka, but is a Catholic priest here in America. Please do come.
Thank you very much. Assalamu alaikum. Peace. Namaste. Vanakkam. Vanakkam is same peace in Tamil, my language. So when I say I'm from Sri Lanka, most of the people do not know where the Sri Lanka is. They say as Indians, of course, I say, oh, I am Indian, but next to India. So when Imam asked me to prepare a speech on this occasion, I was a little bit nervous, and I went through the whole history of Martin Luther King and prepared a formal speech. So he asked me to give me finish within 7 minutes. I asked extra 2 minutes, so I will take extra 2 minutes. I will start with the Bible verse. Love the Lord your God with all your heart, and with all your soul, and with all your mind, and with all your strength. Second is this: love your neighbor as yourself. There is no commandment greater than this. Gospel Mark chapter 12, verses 30 to 31. Greetings to you all, and I thank Imam Shamsi Ali and the organizers for inviting me to this event. I am indeed privileged to be able to speak on Martin Luther King Jr.'s Day, which also marks the 30th anniversary as a National Day of Service. A day on, not a day off. When I was a kid studying in primary school in Sri Lanka, 3 names were often spoken among the elders for their non-violent resistance, demanding justice and freedom. Gandhi, the leader of non-violent movement in India; Martin Luther King Jr. in the United States of America for his speech, I Have a Dream; and Thiliman in Jaffna, Sri Lanka, who died holding a hunger strike demanding the legitimate rights of the Tamils living in Sri Lanka. Charismatic leaders in history do not fall out of the sky, nor do they emerge out of the blue. Rather, they are men and women born and brought up in a particular community that informs, forms, and shapes their characters. They receive inspiration and strength from the courageous leadership of their ancestors, and ultimately they make a voluntary choice to walk the roads least traveled by many, which sometimes may demand their precious lives. They are always ready to sacrifice their life for a noble cause. There is no text without context. Likewise, there are no leaders without having to be associated with a historical background. What was the context of Martin Luther King Jr.? The genocide of the indigenous people, different forms of slavery on African Americans, Jim Crow, segregation, separate car act law, lynching, sharecropping, convict leasing, abuse of power, massacres from 1901, discriminatory policies and actions in the education institutions, school curriculum, governmental organizations, commutes, developments, and judicial system were the saddest reality of his time. While still a graduate student at Boston University, young Martin Luther King Jr. wrote a letter on July 18, 1952 to his future wife, on which he wrote, I quote, "Let us continue to hope, work, and pray that in the future we will live to see a warless world, a better distribution of wealth, and a brotherhood that transcends race and color. This is the gospel that I will preach to the world." He also was an advocate of the social gospel. In one of his articles on preaching ministry, he wrote, I quote, "I must be concerned about unemployment, slums, and economic insecurity. I am a profound advocate of social gospel," unquote. Even though his social gospel was influenced by his grandfather and father's involvement in social activities, the Sermon on the Mount of Jesus Christ and the Gandhian method of nonviolent resistance had a great impact on his movement. In fact, he visited India, and on his return from India, he wrote the following, "The trip had a great impact on me personally and left me even more convinced of the power of nonviolence. It was a marvelous thing to see the amazing results of a nonviolent movement." Martin Luther King Jr. was born on January 15, 1929 to Mr. Martin Luther King Sr. and Alberta Williams King in Atlanta, Georgia, and was assassinated on 4th April 1968. What inspires me the most is that King arrived in Memphis on the 3rd of April to lead the sanitation strike. When some of the sanitation workers persuaded Martin Luther King Jr. to speak, he said this, "Like anybody, I would like to live a long life, but I am not concerned about that now. I have seen the promised land. I may not get there with you, but I want you to know tonight that we as a people will get to the promised land." On the following day, 4th April 1968, he was shot and killed on the balcony of the Lorraine Motel. I must also highlight the genocide war in Sri Lanka against Tamils, as I am Tamil myself from Sri Lanka and experienced the horror of war. Since 1833, various discriminatory policies and laws have been enforced under the notion of singular country, aimed at the destruction of, in whole or in part, of the Tamil population. This culminated in a brutal war in the 1980s, which ended in 2009, resulting in the deaths of over 165,000 innocent civilians. According to Bishop Raya P. Joseph, more than 165,000 individuals remain unaccounted for, especially only during the final stages of the war. I also have a dream that one day the Tamils living in Sri Lanka will live with respect and dignity in their homeland. The war in Gaza, Israel and Gaza has not completely ended, and the war in Ukraine and Russia continues. We continue to see the rise of conflicts between countries in the world. The question of what drives these wars is complex and multifaceted. Is it rooted in geopolitical maneuvering? Is the influence of shadowy deep state actors, testing grounds for new weapons, competition for resources, or an inherent desire for power and territorial expansion? Understanding the underlying causes is crucial for any meaningful resolution. Without addressing these fundamental issues, achieving a just and peaceful society remains a significant challenge. The layers of history, politics, and economic interest all play a role in perpetuating these conflicts. All these things must be considered in pursuing true justice and sustainable peace in society. The mission and vision of religious leaders and intellectuals. As leaders of society, how can we all be effectively work for racial harmony, sustainable justice, and peace in society? Our task is not only to speak against injustice in society, but also to prevent discrimination and genocide from happening in the future. Jimmy Carter, the President of the United States from 1977 to 1981, who in one of his speeches said the following: "Our commitment to human rights must be absolute. Our laws are fair, and our natural beauty is preserved. The powerful must not persecute the weak, and human dignity must be enhanced. We can choose to work together for peace. We can make changes, and we must." Finally, unity in diversity is God's nature and the nature of the Word. Diversity is beautiful because it helps us to understand the existence of uniqueness in others and makes us to realize and value our uniqueness, leading to tolerance, acceptance, forgiveness, and love. Love is the basis for the good and growth of any society. Sustainable justice and peace are possible only when love is present. To the question, which is best for the good of the humanity, democracy, autocracy, or aristocracy? I would say none of them but theocracy. Theocracy is simply put love of God, love of oneself, and love of others. Our love flows from the supreme love, lives with us in the community, and revolves around and goes back to the same supreme love. For any war to truly end, forgiveness is necessary. Otherwise, what will follow is not justice, but revenge. Pope Francis. Thank you, and God bless you.
Thank you very much, Father Subamalai. Thank you. Thank you very much. You spoke like an ambassador, by the way. I think next time I'm going to invite you to speak at the United Nations. But what really you mentioned is beautiful about the loving your God with all your heart and mind, and love your neighbors as yourself. And that is actually the essence of every religion. You know, how to love our God with all commitment, but at the same time loving our neighbors. And that's what actually America is. America is a very religious nation. It just needs to learn to be religious. And at the same time also, America must realize that the beginning of the Constitution is we the people. And it means every single man and woman must be embraced here in this country. But unfortunately what we have seen, I just wanted to say, I think we need to live by our values and Constitution. Because Native Americans are the people who are supposedly to say, I am the real Americans, because there are certain people who say, I'm most American, I'm more American than you. So, brothers and sisters, let me now use my right to speak briefly. Actually, the schedule is up to 6:40 for the speakers to speak, and then we have Q&A. But let me just mention a few points. Racism has been a societal sickness in the history of human beings. From the history of ancient Egypt, to Greece, to Romans, to our current modern America, that leads into the civic rights movement. In the Arabia, before Muhammad came, peace be upon him, racism was so deep, and one of the persons that we remember is Bilal ibn Rabah, happened to be a formerly Ethiopian, black, and he was a slave actually. But Islam had come and freed him. So in Islam, in order to eliminate racism, there are 4 grounds I'd like to mention. Number 1, the basic principle is of Islam itself. And there are 3 main principles of Islam. Number 1 is Tawheed, and that is believing in the oneness of God. Believing in the oneness of God leads into believing that none is superior but the one who created us. Everyone else is created. That is the meaning of believing in the oneness of God. Secondly, Al-Adl, and that is universal justice. That in Islam, everyone must be treated equally, no matter who you are, in terms of race, ethnicity, skin color, or social status, or even political party affiliation. You're going to be treated equally. And the third principle of Islam is compassion, rahmah. Muhammad is known as Rahmatan lil Alameen, his mercy to all humanity. That everyone must be treated with compassion, no matter who you are. This is the first ground. The second ground is Quranic ground. There are 5 verses that I would like to quote, although many actually in the Quran, just quoting it, not explaining it, because I can speak for hours actually. And I'm going to talk in this coming khutbah here, sermon, Friday sermon, about this issue as well. Number 1, in the Holy Quran, it is stated that our origin is shared by everyone. We have a single shared origin. It's called in Arabic language, nafsun wahida. In chapter number 4 of the Holy Quran, verse number 1, Ya ayyuhan nasu inna khalaqna ya ayyuhan nasu taqu rabbakum alladhi khalaqakum min nafsin wahida. One soul. And if you ask me right now that you are Indonesian, he's Chinese, he's Arab, he is African, how is it different? I don't know to answer that one. But we came from the same origin, by the way, same father. The second one, Islam talk about, you're talking about universal human family. Surah Al-Hujurat that is cited here, chapter number 49, verse number 13, it says, O mankind, indeed we created you from a male and a female, and we have made you into many nations and tribes. From a male and a female, we have the same father and mother. So when you hate somebody simply because his skin color, you are hating yourself because you came from the same father and mother. So we have common, shared, universal family. Number 2. Number 3, the Holy Quran talk about, Father, you talk about this. The Holy Quran talk about diversity as a part of God's sign in the Quran. So when you see people in different manifestations, in different forms, black, white, yellow, brown, you are actually seeing the signs of God. And rejecting diversity is not only socially bad, it is religiously denied. So how it is possible that you consider yourself religious and you are rejecting the sign of God? Because diversity is a sign of God, is number 3. Number 4, the Holy Quran talk about human dignity. And that dignity is God-given dignity. It's not Trump-given dignity. And God says in the Quran, وَلَقَدْ كَرَّمْنَا بَنِي آدَمَ. Verily, we have dignified the children of Adam. Not Muslims, children of Adam. Whether it's black, white, brown, every single human being is dignified by God himself. So violating anyone's dignity is against God. You have to know that. And the last one from the Quran I would like to quote is about individual responsibility, accountability. That no matter who you are now, you are going to be accountable to take care of your life. Be respectful to your Lord and to others around, because even if you are king, if you are president or prime minister, you are going to be individually accountable in the sight of God, in front of God on the day of judgment, if not here in this world. This is about Quran. Before the final one is about Islamic practice itself. And I would like to take just 4 main Islamic practices. We pray 5 times daily. You know, for Muslim coming together praying in congregations, either you are president, if you are late, you have to stand behind. There is no reserved spot for you in the mosque. We train ourselves to see everyone equally. And that's why for my brothers here, sometimes you see me sitting behind. So, Imam, come to the front. No, I'm late. It is your right to sit in the front. Because I understand your right. That is in the Salah. Fasting. It is advancing our spiritual being over our physical and material being. That our honor is not in our physicality, but in our spirituality. Finally, coming back to the life of Prophet Muhammad at the end, is the examples of the life of the Prophet Muhammad. Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, was followed by diverse people. Arabs, then you have the African Bilal al-Habshi from Ethiopia originally, and then you have Salman al-Farisi from Persia, and then Suhaib al-Rumi, a Roman, white Caucasian, and all these people were treated by Muhammad equally, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, no difference. And then Prophet Muhammad, in his final speech before he died, this is what he mentioned: there shall be neither superiority of an Arab over a non-Arab, just like American and non-Americans. Nor a non-Arab over an Arab. There shall be no superiority of a white over a black, nor a black over a white, except by the virtue of righteousness and piety. In the language of Martin Luther, by the content of your character. It's not about skin color. It's not your physical appearance, but your character, your heart and minds, and how you deal with other people around you. That makes you noble and better and respectful. Finally, there is a story about two companions of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu, between one who is well respected, highly respected member of the community, and another one, Bilal, that I mentioned earlier, was former slave. So one day they sat down together to talk on some issues, and they disputed. So his name is Abu Dhar al-Ghifari. He mentioned his opinion, and Bilal said, I disagree with you. So Abu Dhar actually felt that who this guy is. He's a poor guy, he's a black guy, he's a formerly slave guy. And he challenged me. So he called him Ibn as-Sawda, the son of a black woman. So he was deeply offended. He told the Prophet Muhammad about this. And the Prophet Muhammad reprimanded the respected guy. He said, Innaka rajulun fika jahiliyyah. You are a man that's still holding an ignorance. So what that man did, he put his forehead down. He said, Bilal, step on my head. I have to pay the price. That is the way, brothers and sisters, to eliminate racial arrogance. By simply we are white or black or brown, whatever we feel, we are better than anyone else. We are all equals. And that is the essence of Martin Luther Day's teaching. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless us. We have a few minutes for Q&A. It's a time for you to ask questions or to comment. It's open to everybody. Please do so. Here's the microphone here. Yes. It's on. Maybe it's not working. Yeah, just correct. Just time.
Thank you very much, all religious leaders of Interfaith, for joining us and your beautiful lectures to promote peace and harmony among the human society. Thank you for coming here. There was a time when people used to live together in peace and harmony, as the rabbi said, and other speakers also said. But nowadays, we are having trouble because of we are worshipping instead of God to money, power, politics, all these things. So today is the day for religious harmony, but I have a question to our religious leader, Hindu religious leader, Dilip Kumar, as because you are a religious scholar, a man of tolerance. Our, heart bleeds when we see in India the Muslim brothers and sisters for carrying beef in their refrigerators. They are being killed. So my question to you is that, is it a religious teaching of Hindu scripture that you are not allowed to eat beef? And is it a religious teaching? So I just want to learn from you for my education.
So a lot of tribes, they eat everything for their survival. For healthy way of life means when you eat food, it should give energy. Only fruits will give more energy. Then vegetables, then the meat. If you eat fruits, within 5 years it will digest. Fruits around 6 to 7 hours it will digest. But still depend upon the person's body. But meat will take 8 and more hours. But sometimes in different places people create problems because they want to create problems. Political reason. I don't like those type of stuff. From any religions. When they had a temple ceremony, I got an invitation. I am the only person who got invitation from the UN. I didn't go there. I don't want to go and make a conflict there. I don't need any religious place for me to connect with God. The nature, wherever I go, I just go within. Nothing else. A lot of people know I go to Muslim places, including Sufi groups. I dance with them. When people sing in the churches, I sing with them. When people do meditation, I'll sat with them. You see the Indian shofar? This is my practice. Whatever written in the text, make sure it is applicable for everybody. So like if you have an old cell phone, you get a new phone with all the gadgets, you take out the old one, you use the new one. So upgrade yourself. Use logic. If I eat, it is going to hurt me or not. If you have cancer, are you going to eat sugar? So use logic. So forget about India, Bangladesh, Pakistan, America, Africa, whatever. We are in the heaven. Make this place as a heaven with harmony. That's my viewpoint.
Certainly he doesn't represent Modi here tonight. Yeah, so we Muslims don't eat pork, but I don't have to hate others, those who are eating pork. You know, I think there's, as I say, rooms. People are eating their own rooms. We respect them. That's what it is. I think that's what we need to learn as human beings. Yes, Dr. Patwari, please.
Assalamu alaikum all. It also assigned to you. I just start quickly with my very favorable quote from Dr. Martin Luther King. I used to speak quite often, this one. His quote is that dark cannot remove darkness, only light can. Hate cannot remove hatred, only love can. So my question is, every religion, peace is a fundamental. As I said, Assalamu alaikum, peace be upon you. In the Old Testament, Shalom, peace, right? But for Christianity and Judaism, Om Shanti, something, Hindu, Om Shanti, right? In Hindu, peace. So all the major religions, I see peace is the fundamental, right? But what is happening in the world? There's no peace. And as a leader, faith leader, we can distinguish ourselves Bangladeshi, Indian, Pakistani, American, white, black, right? I speak Bengali, he speaks English, cultural difference, regional difference. But as a faith leader, you have broader access to all the community because faith people are in every culture, every religion, every faith. So my question is, our faith leaders are not doing their job? What is problem? Thank you.
So I think I'm going to give this to everyone to answer for maximum 2 minutes. So we have 8 minutes to go. Yeah, Rabbi first because you
I'm not sure I'm ready to answer that. I think the question, I think Imam Shamsi Ali talked about this. Who do we see ourselves in service of? What do we see ourselves in service of? Is it, self-preservation? Is it only, to circle the wagons and protect our own? Are we in service of our own ego, right? So, religious leaders are human beings too. We have all the same faults, right? And make all the same mistakes that regular people do. I don't hold myself above other people. A rabbi is a teacher, a guru is a teacher. I'm one of the people, but I think it's a challenge today, and it's countercultural to come out and say what we're saying up here today, right? It takes courage, and it's risky, and our own people sometimes make it hard for us leaders to say unpopular things. And so all the more so, I just think that the bridge building is the key, and the sense that we are interdependent with one another, a beautiful Buddhist concept, and to always be remembering who we serve, right, which is the one beyond all differences.
I'm going to be quick. Thank you. I think it was a great question. You know, from a Buddhist perspective, the idea is to be the living surah or sutra, or in other words, we must become the living Quran. We must be the living Torah. We must be the living Bible. You know, people can say all kinds of things. You know, one of the Muslim leaders in the 1960s said, you could put a cat in an oven, doesn't make it a biscuit. What he was saying is, just because you put a label on somebody doesn't make them a righteous man or woman. They become a righteous man or a woman by their actions, and they must be the living embodiment of whatever sacred tradition that they're following. That's my opinion.
Don't want to be pessimistic completely, because there is so much of goodness and holiness among us and in the world. Amidst the hate and evil and a lot of sufferings, of course, there are a lot of holiness and goodness in the world, throughout the world and everywhere. So that's one of the positive perspective towards things. And the other one is, hate harms the holder than the other. That's the problem. When we harbor evil thoughts, hate within ourselves, or anger, vengeance, they harm us more than the others. That's the logic that we often forget. Within ourselves, even if in the community, if we harbor anger, vengeance, our blood rushes and become our red. If you are fair and white, you will see the red. No, it becomes reddish. You cannot see my face, but the people, the blood rushes to the face and they become like wild. No, why? Because it harms first them, and then only they will harm others. That's the problem. So we should be always be aware that hate, anger, vengeance, any evil thoughts that harms us more than the others. So it is always to be aware, and it is good to be get rid of all those anger, vengeance, and harbor. If we are individually and as a community, that will harm individual as well as the community. It's always to fill with love, goodness, and holiness. That will help us and the community. Thank you.
So I will stand with you. I know so many religious leaders join with the politicians and business people. There's no ethics going down. It's not correct. So religious leaders should have ethics and values and humanitarian mindset. Otherwise, it's a problem. I'll give one example. Some years back, somebody stole my passport, all the documents. I was in India. I don't know what to do. Once you lose passport, it will take months to get, and I had to be back here. I called the police, stopped the person in the airport. They said some mental issue. I said, let it go. But I don't know what to do. I had to get my papers, right? I asked my sister, where is my copies of my documents? I threw it in the garbage. You are here? Huh? My sister is telling me. So somehow, the American consular came to my city. I talked with him. This is my card. Come to my office. I call Indian consulate here. Guruji, what happened? So this is the situation. No problem. One email they send it. So police came for the verification. So I said, this is the situation. So what will you do? I said, I don't know. So I had to leave within few days. So one of the police officer came. I said, I am going to take you to the passport officer. He had a chai, snacks, passport in my pocket. And I came here and they cannot believe I am here. I didn't put even one case. I lost thousands of dollars. By that, whatever they did, ignorance. So peace begin with us. Whatever happened, we are not going to give up our spiritual journey forever. Anybody can cut my head, hands, whatever, I am going to face it myself. But when you see people are doing wrong things, we have to stand up, Tell the person, otherwise you will regret for the future. Child is doing wrong things, immediately you say, you did a wrong thing. That's our duty as a teacher. But forgiveness is needed, but don't forget what happened, because it's a teaching.
Exactly. That's what Islam says. Yes. Thank you. Mhm. Yeah. Sure. Secretary is here. Yes. Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Patwari, and thank you for being here. Thank you yourself for being here. Dr. Patwari is one of our role models in the community. That he is academically very high, very successful, but is very humble, down to earth, and how he is committed to the community as well. He served this community very, very much. So thank you for being here tonight, Dr. Patwari. He is a scientist, actually. And we are going to close by 7:15 because Azan is 7:15. So I'll give you a chance. Yes, come. Don't lecture. Okay, just ask questions.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. I am not a lecturer. I never like that this event attend even in America. Just I am myself. I am today is from those guests here. Find out very good things. I was in university that time was Bible laboratory sometime together. Nowadays here is a first time. I am very experienced for this gathering. So one things. So I make one story, like very short story. Our Prophet Islam period after that, second king of that time was Omar Khalifa. He was the justice one event, one violation his son. He make a punishment with front of the people, and after punishment his son is died. How justice for that time was. Another issue, Prophet Islam said like that, neighbor if you're not satisfied, not a Muslims anywhere, it is you are not a Muslims, not a good Muslims. This is our faith for like Islam's. Another issue, another point like the issue like that, whole world right now is human being losing for discrimination, other things. Basics of like now, like the leader of the world. This is leader of the world, human being losing most of. This is my opinion. Why talking with Luther King? He's not like the whole world, any leader like that, any president. The only issue is he's the human being, his mentality and practice in the life and by the kill also. This is the issue. This is the faith, our like the every faith, same thing. Thank you very much for these things. Today's, I lesson from this one. I ask to everyone, please, being this one, practice your life, myself life. Thank you very much for chance for me.
Thank you for great reminders, inshallah. Anyone else want to ask questions? Nobody? Okay. So let me go back to Dr. Patwari, that he asked about all religions, about peace, about love, about compassion, but why people are still not compassionate, not loving one another. I think I have to go directly to the point. Sometimes we are not fair to the religions. Because when we see evil things happen, our minds go directly to the religion. And that's what the problem of some Muslims as well. I don't think Donald Trump represents Christianity, even though he claimed to be Presbyterian. You know the oldest Presbyterian church here in Jamaica is there, our neighbors. You know Jamaica, Dr. Ibadud's office? That is the oldest one. I asked that pastor, did Donald Trump family come to your church? No, I don't know if you know him, actually. So he doesn't represent Christianity. So when he, in line with some people who call themselves as white supremacy, whatever you call it, I don't think that Donald Trump really represents Christianity in that sense. Similarly, I would like to remind our non-Muslim friends that when you see evil things happen anywhere else, be it here in America or particularly back home, less of democracy, less of freedom, less of human rights, less of whatever you want to call it, don't blame the faith, because it is simply not fair to the faith. Our faith is beautiful, and I think all faiths are beautiful. But we fail to represent the faith. Tell me which head of state today, Muslim state, let's say, you don't have to talk about others, they really represent Islam. Tell me. And so when they have their policy, can I say they represent Islam? Of course not. So you don't have to be blamed the religion simply because the evil things happen around. Because it's not fair to the faith. You know, to take one example in Islam, you know, how many people talk about, they call this genital mutilation, circumcision. The United Nations talk a lot about that. And Islam being blamed for that. And in fact, the largest practicing of genital mutilation is in Ethiopia, happen to be a non-Muslim country. Because this is African tradition, African practices. But Islam is blamed for that. You know, when Muslims are, you know, suffering because of the eating of beef or stuff, I don't think you to be blamed for this. Or they represent themselves. And so, again, your question is valid, but sometimes that question is a kind of not fair to any religion, actually, particularly to Al-Islam that we have seen in the past, recent past, that Islam had been accused of many things, which is the mixed practices happen, yes, we acknowledge, but those practices do not represent Islam at all. So again, 7:8, the call to the prayer is 7:15. So I'd like once again to thank you very much from the bottom of my heart with this type of weather. You are still coming. Again, it's not because of kind of you, but you sacrificed on your behalf. And thank you very much for being here. Give big hands to everybody. Thank you, and looking forward to walking with you on many more ground. Thank you. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.